Hello, everyone. This is horror author James Hershey Jr. with the Staring Into the Abyss radio show. And today I want to bring you a kind of interesting article that I found. And as you can see here, it's from the New York Times. And the headline here is Dog Suicide Bridge. Why do so many pets keep leaping into a Scottish gorge? And this is obviously over in Scotland. So we're going to go down through. That's a beautiful, look at that picture. That is gorgeous. But apparently a bunch of dogs are killing themselves there or something. This article is from March 27, 2019, and it is by Celine Yagensu. Dumbarton, Scotland. I was sure she was dead, Lottie McKinnon said quietly. Mrs. McKinnon was sitting huddled in the corner of a cafe with her two children, sipping hot chocolate as she described the day 3 years ago when she was walking with her border collie, Bonnie, over the Overtoun Bridge in Dumbarton, Scotland. Something overcame Bonnie as soon as we approached the bridge, Miss McKinnon said. At first she froze, but then she became possessed by a strange energy and ran and jumped right off the parapet. A bewitched dog lured to leap off a bridge by a malevolent force. It sounds like a preposterous scene straight from an old Twilight Zone episode. But Miss McKinnon's dog is one of hundreds that Scots insist have suddenly been compelled to throw themselves off the Gothic stone structure since the 1950s. Many have ended up dead on the jagged rocks in the deep valley bed below. Residents of Dumbarton, which is northwest of Glasgow, began calling Overtoun a century-old bridge that stretches across a 50-foot gorge, the Dog Suicide Bridge. There's a picture there of someone walking their dog on the bridge. I guess this one didn't jump. Mrs. McKinnon, who grew up in the neighboring village of Milton, winced at the memory of scurrying down the gorge through the trees and the bushes in a desperate hunt for Bonnie. But when she approached the dog's body, Bonnie started to whimper and eventually tried to stand up. It was a miracle that she survived, she said. In a land rife with superstitions, myths, and monsters, the bridge has been at the center of an enduring mystery. Why do so many dogs jump? Local researchers estimate more than 300 have sailed off the bridge. Tabloid reports say it's 600. At least 50 dogs are said to have died. It's quite a number of dogs. Some say there are rational explanations involving the terrain and the scent of mammals in the gorge that may drive the dogs into a frenzy. Other explanations take on a more paranormal tone. The bridge's location, hushed, lush, and sometimes still, fits the description of what the pagan Celts called a thin place, a mesmerizing spot where heaven and earth overlap. People in Dumbarton are very superstitious, said Alistair Dutton, a local taxi driver. We grew up playing in the Overtoun grounds, and we believe in ghosts here because we've all seen or felt spirits up here. The leaps inspired an episode of the American TV series The Unexplained Files. An entire book is dedicated to exploring the phenomenon. But despite all this attention, the mystery lives on, unsolved. From a distance, it seems as if the ornate Victorian bridge, built in 1895, is a mere extension of the driveway of an adjoining 19th century manor, built in Dumbarton by a wealthy industrialist, James White. Closer still, one can make out the bridge's 3 archways spanning a small river, the Overtoun Burn. Standing in the middle on the bridge's blackened granite parapets, it is easy to forget the space beneath falls away into a deep gorge. In the manor nearby, the current tenant, Bob Hill, said he and his wife had seen several dogs suddenly dive off the bridge since they moved into the property, now called Overtoun House, more than 17 years ago. But Mr. Hill, a pastor from Texas, who runs a local center for women in crisis, had an earthbound explanation. The smell of small animals scurrying around in the gorge below the bridge drives the dogs into a frenzy. Then they break free of leashes, if they're on any, and jump. The dogs catch a scent of mink, pine martens, or some other mammal, and then jump up on the wall of the bridge, Mr. Hill said. And because it's tapered, they will just topple over. Still, he allowed, the Overtoun grounds are more spiritual than other parts. Scotland is the kind of place where there is a lot of the supernatural, and it is very common in people's lives, he added. Paul Owens, a teacher of religion and philosophy in Glasgow, grew up in a town close to the bridge, and recently published a book about the mystery. When it comes to an explanation for the leaping dogs, he is firmly in the supernatural camp. After 11 years of research, I'm convinced it's a ghost that is behind all of this, he declared, while sitting outside a pub on a drizzly day in Glasgow. Now here is a picture, really quick in the middle of this article. Here's a picture of the bridge, and that doesn't appear to me to be tapered enough for a dog to just fall over. It seems like when you jump up, there's a point there, right? Like this middle section here is higher than either of these two sections. So the dog would have to jump up on here and actually go past halfway in order to get to a point that's downsloped at all. But it's even though it is downsloped, it's not downsloped that much. I mean, that's barely noticeable. So I don't really buy the whole dog just toppling off. Seems to me dogs would be smarter than to just fall off a damn bridge, right? But anyway, Mr. Owen's theory is popular among some local residents who grew up hearing stories about the White Lady of Overtoun, the grieving widow of John White, James's son. The lady lived alone in grief for more than 30 years after her husband died in 1908, said Marion Murray, a Dumbarton resident. Her ghost has been lurking around here ever since. She's been sighted in windows and walking around the grounds. In 2010, the animal behaviorist David Sands investigated the phenomenon and ruled out the possibility that the animals were deliberately killing themselves. That doesn't seem like something that would be very hard to rule out. You don't hear of many animals committing suicide. His experiments at the bridge found that the dogs, especially long-nosed breeds, were drawn to the scent of mammals below. Dr. Sands theorized that the dog's limited perspective, their ignorance that the path changes from level ground to a bridge spanning a deep gorge, and the smells wafting through the air probably enticed the dogs to jump. But even he acknowledged that the bridge had a strange feeling. Some residents found his theory plausible, but many here still take the position that the leaps are inexplicable. They question why the phenomenon does not occur at the same rate at other bridges in Britain where mammals roam below. And that's a damn good point. And another point really quick on this. Basically what he's saying here in this paragraph is that the dogs have a limited perspective. They don't see as well as we do, I guess he's trying to say. Or maybe they don't understand as well because it says their ignorance that the path changes from level ground to a bridge spanning a deep gorge. So what he's basically saying is the dogs aren't smart enough to realize that there's a difference in elevation between the bridge and the ground below. And they smell or hear animals, so they jump off, right? That's basically what he's saying. But if that was true, every single redneck in America that has their dogs in the back of their pickup truck, and they drive around in the country. Now out here where I live, you got cows, you got donkeys, you got horses, you got goats, you got sheep, you got alpacas, you got all kinds of wildlife around here. Chickens, and dogs love to chase chickens and squirrel, and there's a bunch of them out here. So if that was true, wouldn't the dogs jump off the back of the pickup truck after all the little critters? But that never happens. In all of my life living in the mountains and all over the world, I have never one time heard of a dog jumping off the back of a pickup truck and injuring itself going after some kind of critter. But if what this fella here is saying is true, it should be happening all the time. So I don't put a lot of stock in that theory. But we shall continue. Look at that picture. That is gorgeous. I reckon that's like a little tunnel. Sorry, my computer is not too smooth today. That's a gorgeous little tunnel there. I'll tell you what, Scotland is a beautiful country. Now, I don't know if that's the end of it. No, here we go. Other bridges don't have troubled spirits lurking about, Mrs. McKinnon insisted grimly. Despite the macabre reputation, the Overtoun grounds remain a popular dog walking area, and many of the animals are off leash. Many people don't believe in the story until they see it for themselves. And even then, they don't think it will happen to them, said Mr. Hill, the pastor. One day, Emma Dunlop, who said she heard the horror stories, took her Labrador retriever, Ginger, for a walk to Overtoun anyway. She did not let him out of her station wagon until he was on a leash. He's never tried to jump, she said, but sometimes he freezes or hesitates when he gets on the bridge, so I'm always careful. Ginger jumped from the car, raced around his owner, and headed straight toward Overtoun Bridge, crossing it without any hesitation. But then Ginger froze, looking back intently at something on the bridge, which appeared empty to human eyes. Aye, there she is. There's the white lady, Miss Dunlop said with a laugh, suggesting Ginger had seen the bridge's ghost. Then the pair continued their walk. So it appears that that is the end of this article. Now that's interesting there, what we just read, because you'll see that a lot of times with dogs and cats and other critters, is they will see things that you don't necessarily see. Yeah, that was the end of the article. They will see things that you don't necessarily see. It'll look to you like there's nothing there when your cat or your dog is just staring off into the corner for no apparent reason, and sometimes they get a little freaked out. And there's a lot of people that theorize that animals can see more than we can see. You know, they can see into the spirit realm, and they can see ghosts and those kind of things where we don't see them unless we are open to seeing that, unless we have some kind of psychic ability or whatever that it allows us to be able to see those things on a regular basis. Now, sometimes normal people just see ghosts too. You know, if it's like, if you're going to a place that's haunted or something, and you see a ghost because it chooses to let you see it, it materializes itself, it wants you to see it. But there are people out there that are sensitives or mediums that can see this stuff all the time. And it's theorized that animals can see it all the time as well. So that might be what you had going on here with this last little example where the dog was looking at something and the lady joked about the ghost. I don't know. I've never been to this bridge. To me, it's an interesting article. I think it's a kind of cool thing. And I'd be interested to see in the comments below what you guys think. Do you think that there is something haunting this bridge that's causing the animals to jump? Do you think it is a malevolent force that is causing the animals to jump on purpose, like it wants to hurt the animals? Or do you think it's just something that's roaming around down there, some kind of ghost, and the animals just get excited and jump off after it and end up hurting themselves or killing themselves? To me, I don't think animals would just jump off a bridge. They're smart enough to understand that it's high. You know, in nature, you don't have wolves and stuff jumping off cliffs because they see a deer below. They run around down to the deer and they eat the damn thing. They don't jump off the cliff because that's crazy. If animals did that, that species of animal wouldn't last too long. If they had that limited of an ability to perceive their environment, they wouldn't still be around. So to me, I don't think it's an accidental thing. I don't think that the animals are getting excited and jumping off. I think there's something else at play here, something that's causing them to jump off against their will, so to speak. But that's my take on it, my theory. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to do something a little different. Usually I take screenshots of these things and then I do a video that way because I don't like doing the scrolling. Sometimes the computer will bog up and all that. But let me know if you like this way better. If you like actually being able to go to the website and see it for yourself as I read down it, or if you'd rather have the screenshots. But either way, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and all that kind of jazz. And until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.